Good evening. Today is April 14th. We made yet another new highs in S&P 500 today, 41.44 in the futures. We finally broke the winning streak and had a down day, but down less than 10 points, so really not any major damage. S&P 500 traded in a narrow range today, as Victor, you tweeted that this wouldn't get the top feeders any profit. And sure enough, the range has expanded. We sold off a little bit and traded as low as 41.15 and closed at 41.23. Russell 2000 made up for the underperformance in the last couple of days and was up 1% as NASDAQ was down 1%. But NASDAQ futures also made new highs today before the open. And bonds were unchanged, well, slightly down a little bit. The official reason why the market sold off in the afternoon is because the Coinbase IPO today opened but didn't do as well as people hoped. It opened via direct listing at 381, then surged to almost 430, then back down to 310, and it's now trading at 340. So quite a range, or over $100 trading range. The implied valuation of $100 billion for Coinbase would make it one of the biggest exchanges in the world. It competes with New York Stock Exchange now, even though it has only a fraction of the volume. But I guess people are betting that crypto is the future and the potential in crypto is huge. And meanwhile, Bitcoin was a bit volatile today as well. It came close to 65,000, then traded just below 62,000. Also, Powell today wasn't really friendly to crypto. He said that cryptocurrencies are speculation vehicles like gold. So I find it funny that he compares it to gold, yet calls both speculations. And also Fed said that most officials don't see raising rates until 2024, which is interesting because today lumber, corn, and other commodities are going up, continue going up, and surging. And there are shortages of multiple products in construction industry, multiple materials. People can't get anything done because of shortages and prices, obviously.
Ketchup is going through the roof. The little packets of ketchup are selling for $5 each on eBay. The little things you get at McDonald's and a hamburger restaurant.
Is this like a relic now? Wow.
No, they're just ketchup is in short supply.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I guess I don't eat ketchup. Wow. Well, I guess inflation is here and it's only going to get, I guess, worse.
Well, apparently the bonds don't think that.
Right.
Bonds were down a little bit, 7, 8 ticks. The question is, when we broke 13 open to closes in a row and 10 closed to closes in a row. Now the question is this the start of a low Bagola move, or is a break in the momentum upwards? That's the question.
Indeed.
I have an answer.
Yes, we all would like to hear an answer.
Well, let me test that right now.
I suspect you're going to say that momentum is here to continue upwards.
Yes, I said we have a 4,200 in the future. Oh, this is very bullish, up 1% tomorrow. Yes, your suspicion was correct. I think we should mark this day because one of the greatest charlatans and fraudsters in the history of markets, probably the greatest, Bernie Madoff, died today. Fortunately, or unfortunately, he hadn't committed a violent crime against the police. So he died in prison of kidney failure. he was responsible for Amazon's founding.
Bernie?
Because, yes, because Jeff Bezos was in the hedge fund business. He was doing very well. I believe he was at Renaissance and Medallion. He's at one of the quantitative hedge funds, and he was doing well, but a lot of his customers said, why can't you achieve the steady returns that Bernie Madoff does? No, I'm putting all my money with him and take it away from you. So he wasn't able to compete with Bernie, and so he switched jobs and went out to Seattle.
Nice.
In the book, Looking Backwards, two Amazon executives describe 25 years with Bezos and some of the principles that Amazon uses to become great. But I also had that same experience. Many of my customers would say, you know, you're so volatile. Why, you know, up 40%, down 20%, and up. So why can't you give me the steady returns that Bernie Madoff does? And then they say, you know, giving 90% of my money to him and only 5% to you, but please try to reduce that volatility. I developed an answer to it. I said, the only way that I know how to make money is with volatility, and that's the price that one has to pay in the market and for me. However, going a little further, I know a lot of the funds that and the intermediaries that dealt with Madoff, and let's face it, almost all of them knew that he was a fraud. They were happy to participate with him. It's amazing that they got so much of their money back. And, you know, sometimes they say to him, Bernie, I need a 30% return this year, or I don't need as much this year. And then he had a third market firm where he basically would buy and sell blocks of shares, and everybody believes that somehow by taking advantage of his third market firm and getting his executions in first, that he would start out with incremental profits each time, so that he had a special edge because he was able in his advisory business to take account of his third market firm. He was so evil. One of his best clients and friends died, and a week before he admitted his fraud, and the wife came to him and said, Bernie, would you please take care of my son? And he said, yes, I will. And he took 4 or 5 million from the poor young man whose father had just deceased. And then he admitted his fraud a week later, and he lost all that money. It was a very sad thing. I mean, he was chairman of the NASDAQ for 3 years. He was able. It shows how I'm gullible, but also some very smart people were gullible, because they made him the chairman of NASDAQ for 3 years, and yet he was uneducated, but he talked a good line. There was a special hotel that he liked to go in the Catskills, they call that the Bush Belt in New York, and he would play racquetball there, and then a lot of the wealthy Jewish players would hope to get on the court next to him, and they'd beg the wife to introduce themselves to Bernie. And they play a little game with him, and then he takes their 5-10 million and down the drain. He had no compunction, and the idea that the people in his firm didn't know about the fraud is absolutely absurd. They had to man all the screens whenever people came. The amazing thing was that I was ordered by the CFTC, the NFA, and they gave a very good audit, and everything was, all the debits and credits and the ledgers matched with your ending balance. But he was able to fool the regulators. He was audited by the SEC, but somehow he was able to jolly them along, and when they couldn't reconcile his ending balance with the cash on hand and so on, he was able to point out that he was the chairman of the NASDAQ, and they didn't look so hard. He passed away, and it's a blot on the escutcheon of the market. It's a blot on all the people who, in return for a 20% fee, they would send their money to him, and then he would give them consistent returns. All the customers who came into his office and looked the other way and didn't bother checking all the things that didn't make sense. I found that family frauds are some of the most difficult to unravel. That often when a husband and wife and the kids are also involved in the frauds, as they were here. Fortuitously, one of the sons committed suicide, and apparently that led the wife and him not to break off relations. But anyway, those are very hard frauds to unravel. Because a lot of times you don't think that the son or have been victimized by many frauds like that, where the son will ask you, my father's just had a temporary squall in his finances. Could you lend him a few million, and you don't want to say no to a devoted son, but you have to be very careful about family frauds. I noticed also that we had the officer who shot the Mrs. Bobbitt, who was a true patriot, and he won't be charged. He just killed somebody who was threatening congressmen in in his mind. There's now every now and then more and more factoids come out, and the politicians on the other side refuse to allow the protection of the Capitol before that no the January 6th. So why didn't they?
Right.
Now they have a few thousand guardsmen guarding the Capitol, but they were very reluctant to guard the Capitol. It was almost as if
Well,
they wanted,
right.
almost as if, we won't make an accusation of anything, but they acted as if they wanted the mayhem to ensue. But Mrs. Potter was she'll be charged for second-degree manslaughter, and she had, in 3 days they made an investigation, and they charged her, and the city manager and the mayor were fired. I came across the allusion you made to the CNN manager who was victimized in a little a trick, had a trick played on him. Sex is a very compelling activity, and when a man sees a pretty girl, he's very likely to spill the beans, even if she's not an escort. But anyway, on Tinder, an attractive young lady agreed to a date with the manager at CNN, and then he admitted that he did everything he could, and that the people at CNN did everything that they could to make sure that Trump wouldn't win. And he indicated, for example, when they showed Biden on their platform, they always showed him running, and they showed him in the full vigorousness of health, so that people would get the impression that the idea that he was suffering from dementia was not true. Anyway, it's getting close to 6 o'clock. Time to buy some more E-minis for me, but I posted some facts about your governor's baseball career. He was a star on his high school team. They played in the Tampa Bay Stadium. And then he was the captain at Yale, and he was universally admired. There was one game that I think they were playing Dartmouth. They were behind 9-0, and they went on to win the game. He had a batting average above 300, and he was a very good baseball player. And that's apparently Congress has a baseball game, the Republicans versus the Democrats. There must be a lot of good baseball players in Congress. In fact, the pitcher for the Democrats is a pro grade. But DeSantos is still he's batting 400 in those games, and he's narrowing every day the lead that Pele, they call the former president Pele, because he was known when he hit a ball in the rough, he would always kick it somehow near the near the hole, and a few of my friends have told me that they've been victimized by this. So anyway, Pele, as you may not know, was a great soccer player whose feet were magic, as was the former president. But anyway, the baseball player is catching up to Pele. He's only 1% behind in terms of the likelihood of being the presidential candidate in 2024. And I hope with all my heart that the president doesn't do anything to negate him and to say bad things and try to aggrandize himself against the baseball player. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you
And
very much.
a quick question, really. Have you ever looked into volume, and does that have any significance if S&P?
I don't think so. I don't think it has any. It's enough when you take into account all the different markets and their interactions with each other, and as of various times of the day and days of the week, and sometimes the market can have a tremendous move on very small volume. Once the announcement occurs, the reaction of the market is pretty immediate, whether it occurs on small volume or big volume. Anyway, I've never found it predictive. Thank you very much, Ms. Yelena, and thank you for your inspiring outfit today.
Thank you, Victor. Have a good night.